Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Inwood and I am a PhD candidate at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. And today I'll be presenting on analysing affiliation and legitimation in conspiratorial discourse. So firstly, I just wanted to provide an overview of my PhD project. So broadly, my PhD is focused on applying the tools of SFL to understand issues of misinformation and disinformation on YouTube. And there are three main aims of my PhD thesis. Firstly, to understand the key affiliation and legitimation strategies used in the language and visual communication of YouTubers sharing mis and disinformation. To identify and analyze the key bonds that personae share or contest in comments when they respond to YouTube videos spreading mis and disinformation. And lastly, to compare and contrast politically motivated mis and disinformation. I'm primarily focused on conspiracy theories by white supremacists to non-politically motivated mis and disinformation. I've previously completed some research on internet hoaxes, for example, the Momo challenge. But today I'll be focusing on just one aspect of my PhD, applying an affiliation and legitimation analysis to the transcripts of conspiratorial YouTube videos. And this presentation is focused around one case study, the Notre Dame fire that occurred on the 15th of April 2019, where the Notre Dame Cathedral spire had collapsed, as well as facing some damage to the roof and upper walls of the cathedral. And the Notre Dame fire was actually one of the most Googled news events of 2019, which is one reason I was interested in choosing this case study for analysis. And I should also say that no evidence has been found to suggest that the fire was a deliberate act. Rather, French prosecutors have declared it to be an accident, most likely caused by an electrical fault. So the videos I'm focusing on in this presentation represent a range of conspiracies about the fire and white supremacist discourse. And the focus in this presentation is on the transcripts of each video. A combined legitimation and affiliation analysis will be explained, with the aim of discussing the strategies white supremacists and conspiracists use to create credibility in their videos and affiliate with viewers. Just to provide an overview of my video data set and data collection methods, I originally sampled 272 videos that were in English, had more than 10,000 views, had comments enabled, and were created in the 24-hour period after the Notre Dame fire. 15 videos were then selected on the basis that they were under 15 minutes, featured conspiratorial content, and had the highest number of views. And the transcripts, visual content, frame by frame, and comments were collected for each video. But as I explained in this presentation, I'll just be focusing on the transcripts. So on this slide, you can see a very brief description of each video and the video title. As you can see, there is a range of different conspiracies and examples of hate speech. For example, the main aim of some videos was to create hate speech about Muslims and spread conspiracies about their involvement in the fire. Other videos focused on conspiracies about the French President Macron, the New World Order, UFOs, or authorities that initially inspected the fire. So here's the summary of the main theoretical frameworks I'm applying to my research. So that is appraisal, the study of evaluative language; communing affiliation, so understanding how values are positioned as bondable in situations where users don't interact directly; and legitimation, so understanding how discourses establish credibility, and that this can be realized by specific linguistic resources and configurations of linguistic resources. So now I'll just go through in a bit more detail about each of these frameworks. So firstly, the appraisal system explores evaluative meanings in language. It consists of three main subsystems. Firstly, affect, feelings and reactions to behavior, judgment, ethically assessing the personal behavior, and appreciation, valuing an object or phenomenon. So I won't spend too long explaining the appraisal framework, as I'm sure this audience is quite familiar with it. But basically, as you can see on this slide, this is the level of delicacy I'm applying to my analysis. So the main framework I'm using is affiliation, originating in Knight's work on conversational humour, about how people commune around as in rally, reject as in condemn, or defer as in laughing off particular social bonds. And these social bonds can be realized in discourse as couplings of ideational and attitudinal meaning. So here's an example of how I'm depicting ideation-attitude coupling. As you can see, the ideation is underlined, while in bold we have the attitude. And then I've also looking at communing affiliation. So this is exploring how social alignment occurs in environments where users are not engaging with each other directly. And it consists of three main subsystems. So firstly, convoke, which is mustering together a community through vocatives, as in marshal, or by naming the community, as in designate. And then there's finesse, which is either broadening the bond, as in embellish, or confining it, as in distill. So in other words, many options or one option. And then temper, so this is upscaling or downscaling the bond, which is foster or emphasizing the bond, as in modulate. And then the other main framework I'm applying is legitimation. So as I previously said, legitimation refers to how discourses establish credibility, and it can be realized by specific linguistic resources or configurations of linguistic resources. And it consists of four main subsystems. So firstly, authorization. So this is legitimation according to custom, as in traditions, authority, as in authoritative people or authoritative objects, or commendation, as in experts or role models. And then moral evaluation. So this is the legitimation of value systems via evaluation, abstraction, or comparison. And then rationalization, legitimation via theoretical legitimation, so how knowledge is constructed, or instrumental legitimation. So focusing on institutionalized social action via the means, goals, or effects of actions. And then lastly, my phoposis. So this is conveyed through narratives and future projections. So example, via moral tales, cautionary tales, single determinations that represent stories in a straightforward way, or over determinations that represent stories via inversion or symbolization. So the rest of this presentation will focus on how I'm connecting legitimation and affiliation. And the next few slides will detail the 6 most common legitimation strategies that occurred in the dataset. And in addition to analyzing the legitimation strategies, key affiliation strategies will also be explored. And then I'll provide an overview of the findings from the legitimation and affiliation analyses and how they intersect. So firstly, we have technological authority. So I define technological authority to how the use of social media or other forms of media is used to construct credibility. So in my data set, referring to screenshots of videos was a frequently used strategy for the YouTuber to provide evidence of their opinions. And in this example, footage of people smiley reacting to news of the Notre Dame Cathedral on fire was used to construct an evil Muslims bond. So as it says in this example from the transcript, you see the Notre Dame burning in the video. It's the same video that I tweeted. And this screenshot from the original Live at Notre Dame video shows people reacting with smiley faces as Notre Dame burns. So the highlighted text here shows the technological authority occurring, so the videos, tweets, and live videos being used to construct credibility regarding the YouTuber's claims. And people here is negatively evaluated. This is an implied evaluation and perhaps makes more sense if you've watched the entire video, but basically the main aim of the video from which this text was taken out of was to construct an evil Muslims bond. And by saying that Muslims reacted to the Notre Dame with smiley faces, this depicts Muslims with evil intentions from the YouTuber's perspective. And the convoking affiliation in this text addresses the sentiment directly to the YouTuber's audience. So my phoposis was also used in order to construct a story that provided a strong moral justification for hatred towards Islam. In this example, a story is told about the meaning behind each world war, constructing a powerful wars bond. And whilst this text is not heavy in inscribed evaluation, there's the implied evaluation at the end that again says Islam is evil. As the transcript reads, the plan is you have World War I to destroy the old order of Europe, the monarchies, Bazar the Kaiser, and then you have World War II to bring about like the UN, to bring about the Jewish state, Palestinian state, and then World War III, that's the war of Christianity against Islam. So in this example, there's a repeated reference to a plan and a retelling of world wars. This constructs the story. And the reference to world wars has a positive valuation because these wars have brought about outcomes. So in other words, they are powerful. And as I said previously, there's this lack of inscribed evaluation, but Islam is still evaluated as evil at the end, with the finesse affiliation strengthening the claims throughout this text by providing no other alternatives. And next we have rationalization. So this is concerned with how knowledge is constructed and is often kept at arm's length from moralization. So the repetition of words like provable throughout the transcripts express the concern with constructing a sense of legitimacy about their claims. So with the example shown, there's also a lack of explicit evaluation. Instead, rationalizing and mythoposis is relied upon. So as it says here, this actual, provable, demonstratable rebirth of the cathedral could be taken as a cue to the Western faithful to start to reclaim the space which they've so left vacant, which Islam has been so keen to slip into over the past 50 years or so. So the first highlighted text, actual, provable, demonstratable, represents a rationalization strategy, getting us to believe that the YouTuber has evidence for their claims because it can be supposedly demonstrated. And the other instance of legitimation, Islam has been so keen to slip into it over the past 50 years or so, that section, is mythoposis because it's recounting a supposed event. And we also have multiple instances of implied evaluation here. So the rebirth of the cathedral, Western faithful, and Islam are all evaluated. And temper affiliation is also a common strategy here in order to emphasize the claims made. So overall, this text was showing two competing bonds throughout, a powerless and righteous Christian bond versus an evil Islam bond. But also more explicit evaluation was shown in the data set. So these examples of explicit evaluation were mainly directed towards comparing Christianity versus Islam. And in this example, a valuable Christianity and righteous Christianity bond is constructed in comparison to an evil Islam bond. So as it reads, Christianity just has to be the first to go because it's the most threatening, it promotes the most liberty and independence, and Christians aren't driven to be psychopaths justify their ideology, Islam will eventually suffer. In this example, we are presented with more explicit evaluation. Christianity is positively evaluated because it's described as threatening, emphasized with temper and affiliation, and associated with positive values such as liberty and independence, positive from the YouTuber's perspective. In contrast, Islam is negatively evaluated because it's associated with psychopathic behavior. So this comparison, constructed by different polarities of evaluation, is also a moral evaluation legitimation strategy. And throughout the data set, there were also delegitimation strategies at work. So the most common target of these delegitimation strategies were authorities, as in politicians or public officials. And these delegitimation strategies worked in conjunction with negative evaluation strategies to form an evil authorities bond. So as this transcript reads, in the grand scheme of things, we do have multiple groups of people in positions of power that believe they're part of secret societies that are enlightened, that think they're bringing us into a new world order and a new world religion. In this example, people in positions of power are delegitimized by being negatively evaluated for being part of secret societies. Temper and affiliation is used to emphasize these claims, whilst convoking affiliation addresses this text directly to the audience. In all, this constructs the evil authorities bond. And delegitimation also occurred in regards to conformity. So this means that YouTubers went against the assumption that everybody else is doing it, and so should you, as Van Leeuwen describes. Instead, they promoted going against mainstream media and official stories. So in this example I've provided, through negative evaluation, the YouTuber does not conform with the official story. So as it reads, some have already expressed skepticism of the official story, count me among them, due to it having started on the 1-month anniversary of the New Zealand mosque shooting, as well as due to the turmoil crippling France. So in this example, the official story is delegitimated and negatively evaluated. Temper and affiliation emphasizes the claims. So by delegitimating the official story, this means the YouTuber is not conforming with the actions of most people, that is, to believe the official story. So now, to sum it all up, this diagram provides an overview of the key legitimation strategies and the key bonds that they correspond to across the data set. So authorization was the most common legitimation strategy, primarily towards using social media as evidence. And deauthorization was the most common delegitimation strategy, primarily towards deauthorizing authorities. And I should just say here, the key social bonds are represented with the yin-yang symbols. So this is the coupling of the attitudinal and ideational meanings. So these were the most commonly occurring social bonds in my data set. And in the diagram, I've mapped them out according to the most common legitimation strategies that they appear with. Okay, so to conclude, this presentation is focused on the key legitimation and affiliation strategies used by conspiracists and white supremacists responding to the Notre Dame fire via YouTube videos. Legitimation and affiliation strategies both worked in tandem in order to strengthen the YouTuber's claims and create bonds primarily towards evaluating either Islam or authorities as evil. And I hope this study can provide a useful methodology for understanding how conspiratorial and hateful discourse unfolds in terms of the strategies used to construct credibility and how these strategies help to fuel the social bonds that are used to align with others. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thanks again.